The dark planet Xylan 9 was silent. No birds, no wind, no sun, only cold dust floating in the air and glowing blue rocks scattered across the ground. The sky above was gray and endless. Then suddenly, boom! A bright light cut across the sky. A spaceship burning, shaking, crashed into the surface of the planet. The ground shook. Rocks flew into the air. Inside the broken ship, Commander Riven groaned. His face was covered in blood and sweat. He tried to move, but pain shot through his leg. One side of the ship was on fire. I have to get out, he whispered. He grabbed a metal rod for support and limped out of the wreckage. His spacesuit was torn, his helmet cracked. But he was alive. Riven looked around. The land was empty. No signs of life. No sound. I need to call for help, he said. But his communication device was dead. He took slow steps away from the crash, looking for shelter. Every step hurt. His vision was blurry. Just when he was about to fall, he heard a sound. Tap. Tap, tap. Soft footsteps. Light, gentle. He turned around quickly, grabbing a small laser tool from his belt. Who's there? From behind a large rock, a small figure appeared. A child. A little girl, about 6 years old, bare feet. Dirty face, messy hair. A simple dress, torn and old, but her eyes were glowing blue. Like the rocks on the ground, she walked slowly toward him. Her head tilted to one side. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at him as if studying his face. Riven pointed the tool at her, unsure. What are you doing here? Are you real? The girl didn't blink. She came closer. Then, in a soft, sweet voice, she asked, Will you be my father? Riven froze. What? He whispered. Will you be my father? She asked again, looking up at him with innocent eyes. Riven didn't know what to say. He looked around. There was no one else. Just him and this strange child. Where are your parents? He asked. She looked down and said, They left long ago. He felt a strange pain in his chest. Maybe it was the crash. Maybe it was something else. She took his hand gently. Her skin felt warm, human. Then she said in a low voice, We have to hide. They're coming. Riven's heart beat faster. Who's coming? She didn't answer. She turned and began to walk away, slowly, into the dark hills behind the rocks. Riven hesitated. His mind was full of questions. Who is this child? Why is she alone? Why did she call me father? Who are they? But something inside him told him to follow. He limped behind her, trying to keep up. They walked for several minutes. The land became rough. Strange plants grew out of the rocks, some glowing, some moving. The girl seemed to know the way. Then behind a tall stone wall, she stopped and placed her hand on the rock. Click. A small door opened in the stone. Hidden, silent. Come, she said. Inside it was dark. She pressed something on the wall. Old. Lights flickered on. They were standing in a long tunnel made of metal and wires. It looked like an old science facility, forgotten for years. Riven looked around. Where are we? She looked up and said, This was my home. He followed her deeper into the tunnel. There were rooms with broken glass, machines, and computers. One wall had drawings done by a child. Simple shapes. A house. 2 people. Holding hands. One looked like her, the other looked like him. Why me? He asked quietly. Why did you ask me to be your father? She sat on a metal chair, swinging her legs. Because I waited. For a long time, I knew someone would come, someone good. Riven sat down. His body hurt. His head throbbed. But he couldn't stop looking at her. What's your name? He asked. She paused. Then said, I don't remember. But they used to call me Subject 7. Riven felt a chill in his bones. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. A deep, loud noise came from above, a mechanical growl. Like a machine waking up, the girl stood up, her eyes full of fear now. They found us, she whispered. We must hide again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The metal walls trembled. Somewhere above them, heavy footsteps echoed like thunder. Boom. Boom, boom. Commander Riven stood frozen, his eyes on the little girl. She whispered, They're close, too close. Then, without another word, she grabbed his hand and ran deeper into the tunnel. Her steps were light and fast. Riven struggled to keep up, limping behind her through the flickering lights. As they ran, the lights turned red. Sirens clicked on, soft but sharp. Warning, Subject 7 detected, security protocols active. Why is the system still working? Riven shouted. She didn't answer. She just ran. They turned down a hidden path, a narrow metal hallway filled with wires and broken glass. Old signs on the wall said things like Biochamber 3 and Clone Wing Alpha. This place is, a lab? Riven asked, breathing hard. The girl stopped in front of a giant metal door. Rust covered its edges. She placed her hand on a glowing panel. A soft beep sounded. The door slowly opened. Inside was darkness. Then lights buzzed to life one by one, green, cold, artificial. The room was large, circular, with glass tubes lining the walls. Inside the tubes were shapes human-like, but not quite human. Some were broken. Some still had red lights blinking beside them. Riven looked around, his stomach turning. What is this place? This is where I was born, she said quietly. He walked toward a tube. Inside, a small body floated. Eyes closed. Face peaceful. It looked exactly like the girl. No? This can't be. It made many of me, she said. But most didn't wake up. Riven's hands shook. This is illegal tech, forbidden by the Intergalactic Council. Who ran this lab? They were scientists, smart, cold. They didn't want daughters. They wanted weapons. Riven looked at her. You're not a weapon. I wasn't supposed to feel. But I started to cry one day. They said I was broken. He looked into her glowing eyes. They weren't broken. They were full of pain, wonder, and something else. Hope. Suddenly, a screen on the wall blinked on by itself. A hologram appeared, a man in a lab coat, eyes tired, voice shaking. Log entry 312. Subject 7 shows signs of emotional attachment. She called one of us father today. The others think it's a bug in her neural code. I think it's something else. The video glitched. Then came another face. A woman, angry. Terminate Subject 7. She's too unstable. The girl looked away. Riven stepped forward and smashed the screen with a metal rod. You're not unstable, he said. You're alive, but the piece didn't last long. Crash. The sound of metal being torn apart echoed through the halls. The girl turned sharply. They're inside. Who? Who are they? She didn't speak. She just walked over to a locker and pulled out a small silver cube. What's that? Riven asked. She handed it to him. It unlocks something. I don't know what, but the others wanted it badly. Riven tucked it into his suit. The walls around them groaned. The temperature dropped. Suddenly, the door they came through slammed. Shut. Another door on the far side slid open with a hiss from the shadows. A shape stepped out. Tall, armored, not human. Its eyes glowed red. Its voice was deep and cold. Subject 7, return. Or the man dies. Riven moved in front of her. You'll have to go through me. The creature tilted its head. Unregistered human male. You do not matter. The girl stepped forward. Don't hurt him, please. The machine took a step closer. Riven reached for his weapon, but the girl raised her hand, and for a second, her eyes glowed white instead of blue. A wave of light pushed through the air. The machine flew back, hitting the wall hard. Riven stared, shocked. What did you just do? She looked at him, afraid. I don't know. He grabbed her hand. We can't stay here. Together they ran toward the dark tunnel beyond the second door. Behind them, the machine slowly stood again. The rain was falling. Underground, drops of water leaked through the cracked ceiling of the tunnel. The sound was soft but steady. Drip. 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 Drip, as if the planet itself was weeping. Commander. Riven sat beside a broken console. His leg was bleeding again. He tied a piece of cloth around it and breathed hard. Across from him, the little girl Subject 7 was drawing on the floor with a piece of old wire. Lines, circles, stars. Then a small stick figure. Him. She didn't speak. She just drew. For the first time in years, Riven didn't know what to say. A few hours ago, he was a pilot with a mission. Now, He was hiding in the dark with a child who could throw machines across the room with her mind, a child who had asked him, "Will you be my father?" And somehow he had said yes. When Subject 7 finally looked up, she said quietly, "Do." "You dream?" Riven raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Dreams at night. I've read about them, but I don't think I have any." Riven looked at her. This wasn't a normal question from a child. But she wasn't a normal child. "I used to." "Dream," he said, "but not lately. What did you dream about?" He smiled a little. "Flying, a big sky, a warm sun." She nodded. "That sounds nice." Then suddenly her face changed. Her body went stiff. "Someone's here," she whispered. Riven stood up and grabbed his tool. "The hunter?" She shook her head. "No, someone else. I feel memories." She walked to the far wall and touched a black panel. It slid open, revealing a hidden room dusty, filled with old monitors and data chips. In the center was a glowing screen. "Welcome back, Subject 7, said a soft voice from the machine. Riven stepped closer. "What is this place?" "A memory archive," she said. "Everything they didn't want me to see?" The screen blinked. A video played, a lab, white walls, bright lights. A man and a woman, scientists. The woman held a baby, the same girl, but she was smiling. "She's perfect," the woman said. "She's not just a weapon, she's our chance to make things right." Another voice answered, "If the council finds out, we'll all be executed." The video paused. Riven stared at the screen. "Wait," he said. "That woman, she wasn't just a scientist. She looked at you like..." Subject 7 nodded, "like a mother." She pressed another button. More files appeared. Photos, reports, test results. Riven read the headline, Subject 7, first, successful clone with human emotion encoding. His voice was low. "You're the only one who survived." "They said I was broken," she whispered. "No," he said, turning to her. "You were the only one who became human." Her face twitched. Something between a smile and a tear, but the screen kept going. Final video. A secret meeting. The same woman, the one who smiled before now, looked scared. She was speaking fast to the camera. "If you find this, she's not safe here. They've turned on me. They plan to wipe her mind. Please, if anyone can protect her. She needs someone to care, not control." The video ended. Silence. Subject 7 stood very still. "So, she did love me?" Riven knelt down in front of her. "Yes," he said. "And now I do too." She looked up at him. Her eyes shimmered, but before either could speak, a sharp sound cut through the room. ZZZK. ZZK. A red laser beam moved across the far wall. Riven jumped up. "They found us again." The hunter's voice came through the tunnel. "Give?" "U.S. Subject 7, you have no right to her." Subject 7 stepped forward. "I'm not yours," she said to the voice. "I'm not anyone's experiment." Then she turned to Riven and whispered, "I know where the final truth is, but we have to go deeper, below the core." Riven looked at the dark hole in the floor, a hidden elevator shaft. "No power." He said. She held his hand. "There's another way." She stepped off the edge, and she didn't fall. She floated. Asterisk. He had never flown without wings before. Commander Riven's heart beat fast as the world around him fell away. He wasn't standing. He wasn't jumping. He was floating. Beside him, Subject 7 held his hand, calm as ever. A soft white light glowed from her skin, keeping them both gently suspended as they moved downward through the dark vertical shaft. No wires. No gravity. Just air and her power. Riven looked at her in silence. She looked like a child. She felt like something else. Below them, metal tunnels and pipes gave way to an older space, a place forgotten by time. Finally, they landed in a dark corridor. The air was still. Dust floated in strange patterns, like it remembered being touched long ago. Subject 7 said, "This is the core layer. No one came down here." "Not even them?" Riven walked slowly, one hand on the wall. The metal was warmer than he expected, alive almost. Lights flickered on as they passed. Not bright, just enough to see. Then they reached a room with a glass wall. Behind it was a machine the size of a house, with cables running deep into the earth. Is where I began, Subject 7 said. A screen blinked on. No button was pressed. A file auto-loaded. Project Genesis, Human Evolution Prototype. Riven read the first lines aloud. If Subject 7 reaches emotional maturity, she must be given a choice. Continue evolution, or erase herself. His hands turned cold. She's not a machine, he whispered. She's a person. But before she could answer, the entire room shook violently. Boom. Dust rained from the ceiling. Boom. Subject 7 turned her head slowly. They're here. Above them, in the lab corridors, a metal beast moved without sound. Its feet were sharp. Its armor was black. Its eyes were red, burning. It had a name once. But now it was just called the Hunter, built for one purpose. Find Subject 7, take her back or destroy her. It scanned the floor and found the heat trail, 2 life forms. Moving toward the core, target confirmed. It dropped down the shaft. No rope, no fear. Just speed. Down in the core room, alarm suddenly screamed. Intruder detected. Riven pulled Subject 7 behind a panel. We can't fight that thing, not now. I can slow it, she said, but not stop it. Then she looked up at him. Unless you help me unlock the cube, the silver cube, he said, pulling it out. Yes, it's not just a key, it's a part of me. She placed her hand on it. The cube opened like a flower. Inside was a small glowing sphere. Place this in the machine, she said. He didn't ask questions. He ran across the room, dodging falling pipes and sparks, and pushed the sphere into a port on the large machine. It lit up. The ground trembled. A hidden screen unfolded from the wall. A face appeared, hers. But older, wiser. Hello, Subject 7, the recording said. If you're seeing this, it means you survived. It means you chose to feel. The message continued. But they will never stop chasing you. So now you must decide: run forever, or become something they can never touch. Subject 7 stepped forward. What does that mean? But the message was cut short by a metal scream. The hunter dropped into the room. Its voice echoed. Terminate the rogue subject. Eliminate the male. Riven fired his laser tool, but the blast bounced off the hunter's armor. The hunter moved too fast. A blur of black and red. It slammed into Riven, throwing him across the room. Subject 7 screamed. Her eyes glowed white again, but this time the glow spread across her body. The hunter paused. It scanned her. Warning, energy spike detected. She stepped forward, raising her hand. You won't hurt him. A wave of light blasted from her chest. The hunter staggered. Its systems. Glitching. Riven, bleeding and half-conscious, looked up. She wasn't a little girl anymore. Not really. She was evolving. Her feet didn't touch the ground anymore. Subject 7 stood in the center of the core room, glowing like a star. Around her, broken metal floated in the air, slowly spinning. Like time itself had stopped to watch. Riven lay against the wall, barely awake. His chest hurt. Blood ran from his side. But even in pain, he could only stare at her. The little girl he had promised to protect was no longer just a girl. The hunter twitched on the floor, its circuits fried from the blast. Its voice was broken. System fail, subject power unknown. Then silence. The red lights in its eyes faded to black. Subject 7 turned to Riven. Her voice was different, deeper, steady. Are you hurt? Riven gave a weak smile. Just a little crushed. Nothing serious. She walked over to him, still floating, and placed her hand on his chest. A soft light passed through her fingers. His pain faded. Bones shifted back into place. Breathing became easier. Riven blinked. You healed me. She looked into his eyes. I didn't know I could. He stood up slowly. What's happening to you? She looked at her hands, still glowing. I think I'm becoming what they were afraid of. A hidden door on the far side of the chamber slowly began to open. Thick steam rolled out, and a soft voice echoed, access granted. Subject 7 recognized. Final archive unlocked. Subject 7 looked at Riven. This is the last door. He nodded. Then we go through it. Together. Inside, they found a room like no other. It was quiet, still, peaceful. No blinking lights. No broken machines. Just a circular chamber with one thing in the center, a glowing chair, but it wasn't metal. It looked alive, grown from roots, crystals, and light. Above it floated a sphere of memory, a soft, silver orb spinning slowly, like it held the weight of 1,000 thoughts. Subject 7 walked to it. I remember this, she said. I used to come here in my dreams. Riven stood back, silent, watching. The orb opened. Images filled the room, not videos. Memories. A woman, her creator, holding her as a baby, laughing, teaching her to walk, to speak, to feel. A second scientist warning them, if the council discovers she can feel, they'll erase everything. More memories, her crying, them comforting her, then yelling, lights, security teams dragging her away, the woman screaming, "She's not a weapon, she's my daughter." Then darkness. Subject 7 dropped to her knees. Tears fell silently. She didn't give me up. They took me from her. Riven stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. You were loved, he said, from the very beginning. She looked at the chair. The living machine, then a voice, soft, not machine-like, filled the air. Subject 7, would you like to finish your evolution? She stood up. What happens if I say yes? You will become whole. But you will never be a child again. She looked at Riven. I'm scared. Riven smiled. That means you're still human. She stepped into the chair. It glowed, brighter and brighter. The orb above her cracked open, spilling white light. It wasn't painful. It was peaceful. Outside the room, deep in the tunnels, the backup hunter units began to wake. A red light blinked. A signal. Final archive breach. Termination protocol active. 10 machines, stronger, faster, smarter. Marching toward the core, back in the chamber. Riven shielded his eyes. Subject 7 rose into the air one last time, surrounded by a sphere of light. Then the light collapsed inward, vanished. She floated back down, quiet, changed. Her voice returned, calm and sure. I know who I am now, Riven asked. What did you see? She looked at him. I saw everything. I wasn't built to destroy. I was built to lead. Suddenly, the chamber lights flickered red. A screen activated. Incoming units. 10, estimated arrival. 6 minutes. Riven grabbed his tool. We need to run. Subject 7 shook her head. No, we finished this. The countdown had no sound. No sirens. No alarms, just a red number blinking softly on the screen. 5:59, 5:58. 5:57. 6 minutes until 10 hunter units arrived. Machines made to kill. No feelings. No fear. Commander Riven and Subject 7 stood alone in the glowing archive chamber. The quiet was heavy. Riven wiped his hands on his suit. They were shaking. You sure you're ready? He asked her. Subject 7 turned to him. Her eyes didn't glow now. But they didn't need to. There was something stronger in them now. Choice. I'm not afraid anymore, she said. Riven nodded, though a tight knot sat in his chest. Good, because I am. They smiled. Just for a second, then she pointed toward the wall behind the memory chair. A panel slid open. Inside was a small pod, round, silver, built to carry one person. A life capsule? Escape? Riven's eyes narrowed. You knew this was here? She nodded. It's the only one left. Designed for emergency launch. He stepped forward, inspecting the pod. All right, he said. You get in. I'll stay behind and slow them down. But she was already shaking her head. No, Riven, I'm not leaving you. He turned sharply. I'm not leaving you either. 4:30. 4:29. Somewhere above, the ground shook. Dust dropped from the ceiling. The hunters were getting closer. Riven looked at the escape pod again. Only one seat, only one choice. He turned back to her. When I crashed here, I thought I was going to die alone, he said. Now I'd die 100 times if it meant you got to live. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I was made to survive, she said, but I didn't know why. Until I met you. 3:59. 3:58. Their chamber. The hallway lit up red. Heavy footsteps. Dozens, marching closer. Subject 7 raised her hand toward the wall. Glowing symbols appeared. One last memory gate. It played without a sound. The woman, her creator, speaking with urgency. If she bonds with someone, she will evolve beyond us. But she will also feel loss. She will understand sacrifice. That will be her final test. The screen went dark. Subject 7 looked at Riven. I think this is the test. 3:01. 3 o'clock. They stood there, not speaking. Then Riven took her shoulders. Gently, you said I made you feel human, he whispered. Well, you made me feel like a father, he smiled sadly. Now let me do what fathers do. She shook her head. I won't survive this without you, he looked into her eyes. You will. And someday you'll tell others who you were. Who we were. 2:20. 2:19. Boom. The entrance chamber exploded open. The first hunter stepped in, its eyes scanned. Its voice was cold. Terminate Subject 7. Retrieve genetic code. Eliminate companion. More followed behind, Riven. Pulled out a plasma blade. He looked at her. Now, he said. Go! She didn't move. So he yelled, Go! She ran to the pod, tears falling silently. Riven turned to face the machines. I'm not afraid of you, he said. She's more than you'll ever be. The hunters raised their weapons. Then the pod launched. A brilliant blue light filled the chamber as it shot up through a hidden tunnel. Straight into the sky, above the planet. Subject 7 watched through the window. The stars looked closer now, but her heart felt heavy. She placed a hand on the glass. Goodbye, Father, she whispered. Below. The chamber shook. The hunters moved in. Riven took a deep breath and then... He smiled because he knew she was free. Space is quiet. But her heart was louder. Subject 7 sat alone in the escape pod, drifting through the stars. The window showed endless black, dotted with tiny lights, but she didn't look outside. She looked down at her hands. The same hands that once glowed with strange power now trembled like a child's. She wasn't floating anymore. She wasn't fighting. She was remembering, and the memory was warm. A voice crackled from the pod speakers. Riven's voice. A message recorded before launch. If you're hearing this, you made it. That's good. That means the universe still has a chance. She closed her eyes and let the voice fill the small cabin. You're more than a machine. More than science. You're proof that something built can still choose love. You're proof that even in the darkest places, light can grow. The recording paused. Then one final whisper. I'm proud of you. And I'll be with you. Always. The message ended. She didn't cry. She smiled because she knew he didn't die as a soldier. He died as her father died after 3 days in space. The pod finally reached orbit around a new planet. Green. Alive, blue skies and mountains. The ship's system said, safe for landing. The pod touched down in a quiet valley. Trees rustled in. The breeze, strange birds flew overhead. It felt like peace. Subject 7 stepped out for the first time. Alone. The wind touched her face like a whisper. She looked up. I'm still here, she said softly. She built a small home near a stream using broken parts from the pod. Simple, safe. Every evening, she sat on a hill and listened to Riven's old voice log. Some were funny. Some were sad. Some were just silence, him breathing. Thinking, she played them all. She started to write them down in a book made from leaves and thread. At the top of the first page, she wrote, he stayed with me. Below that, and now I stay for him. One night, the stars above blinked strangely, not twinkling. Signaling. She ran to the top of the hill with a broken satellite scanner. The signal repeated again and again. Text scrolled across the screen. Life form. Detected match. Riven trace 37%. Possible survival. Her breath caught. No. She touched the screen with both hands. Is it real? Another signal flashed. Location unknown. Searching. The stars above her seemed to lean closer. Waiting. She didn't wait long. She closed the scanner, packed her journal, and stood. Tall, I'm coming, Father. Before she left, she planted a small stone beside the stream. She carved it with her hand. It read, here began my second life. Then she looked at the sky one last time and stepped into the future.